Welcome to back for another Whispers of Wisdom. I'm Christine Renee, your host this morning, and I'm joined with Shantel. Can you do me a favor and just give us a little astrological update? Like, are we in this new moon time? Like, it feels like
We are right now. So new moon is happening. I believe today is new moon. And so we are also like going into eclipse season. We're coming out of retrograde. We've got Pluto and Uranus and all kinds of things that are happening. So it's actually a lot of inner child work that is coming up, past stuff, karmic stuff, and generational things are all rising. So if we're feeling it, I had some family over yesterday and we took a hot minute of like, and they're like, it's all of our childhood stuff. And they're like, yeah, we're just not feeling our mom right now. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of feels like it because they're all just reflecting back onto the past. And then we start talking about where we are, and they're like, that makes absolute sense. So yeah.
yeah, I'm like,
Out there, everyone. That's what it is.
I'm
Just
like,
go with the flow.
is it the stars right now? Is it hormones? What is this going on? Where I'm just like feeling
Yeah.
knowing that like this is part of life. Like we have these moments, whether it is the cycle of the stars or the cycle of your hormones or the cycle of in the seasons of life. Like school starts tomorrow in my household. Like there's a lot of change among us. And even when all of that is happening, how do we stay aligned and true to ourselves? How do we stay in alignment with our grandest version of who we are? That's really what we're going to be talking about today. And knowing that, myself, I feel like I'm in the thick of it. Like it's also giving ourselves permission and grace to be in those moments where things might feel chaotic or things might not feel grounded, and knowing that that's not going to negate your soul's path, purpose, and mission, right? Like you can have those moments and still be walking on your path. Like I think there's a hope, a vision that once you're on the path, it's going to be straight, narrow, and easy going forward.
Yeah, right. And it's not like that at all.
It's not like that. So I hope by me showing up in my authentic self today and like my true energy of like, yeah, it feels a little chaotic today and a little discombobulated, gives you permission to know that like, even when you have a solid spiritual practice, even when you are doing the self-care, even when like the things are happening, it's okay that your spiritual path might have ups and downs and twirlies and 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, 3 steps forward. Like, however it looks, like that is part of the soul's experience and journey of learning. And it's okay. It's absolutely okay.
Yeah, I love that permission. I think a lot of people, when you think of spirituality, you think, oh, we got it all together and nothing can go wrong. And it's not even like that. You have like a chunks of period that is more in alignment and more smooth and in the flow than probably in the past. But still things come up and we do get all like, oh, what's going on? And have to check in with each other. You check in on your friends, make sure they're all okay.
Right?
You
Yeah,
know, this is a
absolutely.
busy time in our world's history. So yeah,
Yeah,
we need
I
to
was
check on each other.
I was messaging Isabel this morning. She's like, you just need to give yourself a little grace. And I'm like, you're right. We all just need to give ourselves permission when we need a little bit of grace. Like whether you're overwhelmed, whether you're feeling anxious, whether you're feeling, just pulled in different directions. And I think that's, such a part of life. I have to remember, like, there was a plant medicine journey that I did some time ago. And I remember like seeing the earth and coming towards it and going, I love her. I love her so much. I love being on earth. Being on earth is so good. And it's all of these ups and downs, and it's all of the twirls and twists, and really getting to know yourself in a different capacity. And so I have to remind myself that I'm in love with Earth. I'm in love with this experience, and that it's okay. It's okay for it to be messy sometimes. And knowing that, how do we come back to center? How do we come back to solid footing once again? How do we find that groundedness in our spiritual path, the solid truths that we have, the quote unquote always that we have, to kind of hold us steady and grounded. And so today's whispers of wisdom, we really want to embrace all of that. We want to embrace, how do you discover your soul's path? How do you stay on your soul's path? How do you make this walk on it, be graceful, giving yourself permission to have those messy, chaotic days, which we all have, and come back into our alignment. So, welcome to the call.
Welcome to our chaos this morning. You know, actually, this morning when I was getting ready and brushing my teeth and, like washing hair every day, sometimes that's a chore, and so I'm brushing my teeth and I'm thinking, for nearly 50 years, I've been doing this, it's like the habits that we have that we go through, but it's those little things, I think, sometimes that really tune us back into what it means to be human, because we don't have instantaneous manifestation of whatever we want. It is, we have this linear timeline of, you got to brush your teeth, you got to wash your hair, all these little to-do things. But when you actually look at it as the self-care practice, then you can put more love and energy into yourself. And so this morning, instead of feeling like I don't want to take a shower, I don't want to brush my hair and or wash it or whatever, I just took a moment in it and just breathed through it and said, it's all good. It's just, sometimes it's like, no, I don't want to do it. I just want to sit.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I found that, like, for me, in the morning time, like, I have made myself a morning playlist that's all very positive. Like, I want those songs stuck in my head all day long.
Yes.
Right, like, and so making a morning playlist, and I'll try to share that Spotify playlist that I've created, because it just helps attune me to the day's energy of, like, stepping forward into a positive and recognizing when the first thing that comes up in the morning is fear, is anxiety, of going like, whoa, 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 let's back up. Where did this come from? Right. And is it coming from hormones? Is it coming from psychic attack? Is it coming from the previous day's stuff that didn't get brushed off? Like, what self-care do we need to have in place to make sure that we're in alignment as much as possible? And when it really is a fear that's showing up, why is it showing up? What is it there to teach us? How can we show ourselves the grace and unfolding that fear of going, is this a childhood wound? Is this coming from a fear of the future? And that's where the anxiety is showing up. Where is it showing up in your body? And getting curious and investigating of why the things are showing up the way they are in your life, and then giving yourself grace to walk through it. I think there's so much of, we need to be perfect, or we need to be happy, or we need to be positive all the time, that is spiritual bypassing. And we need to be recognizing when we're spiritual bypassing ourselves, and giving ourselves that permission to, one, reach out for support, two, do the self-care work, three, be able to find that space in which we can still love ourselves even when we're not happy and satisfied and feeling all sexy and good. Like, where can we find ourselves in a place of, I love myself so deeply, and I know that there's a higher power, a higher source, divine intelligence that knows my path and is going to show up for me in this moment and on the good days too.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times too, getting near water, even the shower, can really bring that in, to bring in that balance, asking, setting the intention to receive downloads and messages on why you're feeling what you're feeling. And so when you're in the shower, that's a great place to do some Reiki, to, create a container, to connect with your guides, to just let the water wash everything away. And so, because that's such a great conduit, it's that element, a flow and water and being cleansed. And so that's one way in the morning to just hop up, get in the shower and do it. But also soul gazing is a great way. So if you're feeling really bad about yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and tune in to your soul's eyes and see yourself from that perspective, and not the human perspective, because we are so judgmental of ourselves and our past and our things and where we are heading and what we're doing. But when we can see ourselves from that higher perspective through our eyes, it really can bring in this balance of love, this sense of love for self that you might not feel all the time. So that's a great way of actually just truly tuning in to who you are.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And it reminds me of Isabel's Soul Speak. right?
Mm.
Like, how can
Mhm.
we actually tune into the soul and
Yeah.
let that version of who we are come forward? Because we have this mind space, our logical mind, our egoic self, our conscious mind that is so tied up in the day to day, into the busyness, into the judgment, into the shame, into all of the things that are heavy because it's designed to protect us, right? And so we have that ego showing up, but when we can tune into the soul, how do we get there? How do we find the soul? So I love the suggestion of doing eye gazing with yourself in a mirror to find that space. I love the sessions with Isabel on Soul Speak, where we literally let the mind take a hot minute, take a break so that we can find that soul voice within us and let it come forward. And so the question is, what do you need to do to find that soul space, to let that soul come forward and shine in a world that doesn't often allow space on its own for it to come forward? We give so much a voice to the logical. We give so much voice to the ego. We give so much voice to all these aspects of who we are, and they're part of who we are. And where's the soul? Because right now, maybe it's like, feels like 5% goes to your soul, and then the other 95 is driven by, the exterior world. And so how do we cultivate that space? How do we cultivate that soul's voice? And I think that's really what it feels like when we allow the soul's path to come forward. For me, it feels like when I'm doing light language, when I'm able to feel and communicate with spirits around me on a consistent basis, I feel like, oh, I must be in alignment because these things are showing up for me. And when the voices get quiet, then I get nervous.
And then 3 months later, you get this huge dump of downloads and messages, and it's like,
Oh, that's
what
where it
actually
all went.
happened? Because that does happen. Sometimes it does go quiet, and then all of a sudden, it's just like an overwhelm of information comes flooding through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we cultivate the basis to allow the soul to show up in whatever way it wants to? So oftentimes for me, it's like my soul's voice comes through other voices of power animals and spirit guides and angels and archangels. And so when they're not there in my spiritual awareness, because my mind has gotten so busy that I can't hear them anymore, it's a big flag for me to go, all right, Christine, you need to slow down. You need to meditate or go for a walk or spend some time at the creek or take an extended shower or bath to find that internal voice again. What's that like for you, Shantel? What is your like go to?
Mine is okay. So now, first thing in the morning is I tune into myself, I call myself in, I give thanks for the day, and I just put my hands on my heart. And I do that for just a few minutes, just as I'm waking up, because I used to just hop right out of bed or straight to the phone or whatever. And even though that happens within a few minutes, because you got to see what time it is and all the things, and then somehow looking at the time then takes you into Facebook and all these different apps. I don't quite know how that happens. Quick fingers, I guess. But I tune into myself, and then we have these windows in our room, and we'll open those and let that fresh air come in. And that is a huge, like, all of a sudden the senses really start waking up, because now we can hear the birds outside. We can smell that fresh morning air. There might be a cool breeze that comes through. So when we do that, or, that just changes the environment of our space. So even like this morning, my husband and I are both home this morning. So I opened the windows, and then it's like I could hear him just breathe like differently, because all of a sudden that whole energy flows in, and he's still asleep, but he's being affected by it because I just shifted all of it. I shifted the energy, the smells, the sounds, all of it. And so nature is such a powerful way for us to reconnect with ourselves. We just don't give it all the credit it needs sometimes. We don't go to it the way we should. But then after that, Just setting intentions and then getting in the shower and doing that and just getting ready for my day. And I really find even just getting my cup of coffee in the morning or tea or whatever it is you feel like drinking, going outside, checking out what's going on in the front of your house, like go spend some time outside of walls. And when that just for me, it wakes me up, it gets me going.
Yeah, I love it. I think morning rituals can be so, so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And then when you've done that, you're welcoming in this higher power, this larger than life presence. And in that we're finding the magic where synchronicity and coincidence, like there's no such thing as coincidences in my mind, right? Like it's that synchronicity shows up, who's showing up in your world that day to affirm that you're on your soul's path.
Yeah.
And I think that's always such a curiosity to me. And I remember times and spaces in my life where that was so organic and so natural. And the times and spaces in my life where it was like I hit the pause button on my spirituality and there was none of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been in moments, time, like years where I didn't like being by myself because my brain would take me to all the thoughts and things that I didn't want to have. So I was always busying myself with other people. Like as soon as I was home alone, I was on the phone. Who can I call? Who can I talk to? Or put TV on or whatever it is. And when I really sat, then this was only just a few years ago where I took like I don't know, several months of just silence and just being with myself. And there was nothing, no sound in the background, no music, no nothing. And it really retrained my brain to relax. I learned to how to be with myself and how to re-like myself and how to let those negative thoughts go because I was in the silence of just me. And it really worked. So I highly recommend that because a busy mind that takes you to places you don't want to be is not, it isn't, it's toxic. It's really toxic, and especially if you're remembering past things that you don't want to remember, or you have this negative critical thought about yourself or whatever it is, really the silence brings in a whole different sound that you don't recognize until you're in it.
Yeah, I love that. I could see how for some going into silence would be scary, right? Because
Yeah, it was scary for me, but it was a conscious thing I had to do because I wasn't getting out of the thought process. It was controlling me for so many years. And then so finally, when I like consciously said, I have to do this, because I was living on my own at the time. That's when Noe left to go work. And he has a lot of background noise, but I don't seek that out. So it was a great opportunity for me just to seize it and say, I'm doing this for myself. And once I did it, the brain like really slowed down, it calmed down, and then my thoughts became more conscious, and then it was more creative, and then it was like, what do I want to build, what do I want to grow, it was that kind of thing versus all of the past or thoughts or whatever it was. It totally shifted.
I want to illuminate something for our listeners of how oftentimes we move to like we need to work through the past and the past traumas and the childhood wounds and all of that, like really shift through and let that go and forgive and release it. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have this, ironclad tight hold on our conscious thoughts or our unconscious thoughts. Those negative self-talk is so often tied with the past. And when we can start thought catching, meaning I have a negative thought about myself, and you stop yourself and go, where did that come from? Who was that voice in my head that wasn't mine? Who said that to me as a child or whatever it was? And then instantly replace it with a positive affirmation to release and let go of that past thought. Then you're able to get into a place of, I can envision the future of what do I want to create. I can bring that affirmation to pull in those future emotional elements into my life to nurture that. And so then we're moving away from the past and getting future oriented. But after you're future oriented for a while, the coolest thing happens is that you can just be in the now. You can just be silent. You can just be present. You can just be in nature,
Mm-hmm.
the past and without the future.
Absolutely. And you almost don't even know you're crossing that bridge until you get to the other side of it. You know,
Yeah.
you think there's this plan of action because that's the conscious thought of I'm going to try this. And then you're doing it, and all of a sudden you're on the other side, you're stepping over the threshold of it. And then it's like, oh, wait, those triggers are gone. That thought is gone. My mind is thinking about something completely different than it used to. And then when people ask, well, how do you do that? It's literally just making that conscious shift of change and just going and being dedicated to it.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're on the other side and you're like, wow, it's just an amazing feeling of release and putting the burden down and knowing it's not yours to carry and it's okay and it doesn't have to define you. And we're so defined by our past or the labels or what people say. And now it's like we can come to this place, right? Of just, no, we don't need to label. We don't need to have all of this stuff that we carry around all the time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is very exemplary of our Soul Rising program where we move through the chakras. And so we get into sacral, our second month, and we're doing the childhood healing. We're meeting our inner child, we're doing the work and releasing the past. And then we move into solar plexus, which we bring in belief bridging and future forecasting. And we start working towards where do we want our life to look like? What's our desired reality? And it's so interesting when we can hold space between these two chakras of understanding the importance of forgiveness and importance of releasing the past so that we can be free to envision what our future is going to be. And then when we come into heart chakra, it's all of a sudden, I'm safe to be in the now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
safe to be here. And it's so often that our students aren't even realizing the work that they're doing in their personal life until they come to a coaching call or they talk to one of their mentors after the fact of going, I'm not getting any of the work done. I'm like, are you sure? Look at your life. Look at how much shifts you've had because you've been able to allow yourself to emotionally process, to start envisioning what you want in the future. Like, yeah, your life might look like a mess, but all of a sudden, there's this opportunity for divine to intercede and really help let go of things that are no longer serving you so that you can step authentically on that soul's path. And it takes time. We've got to give ourselves permission to allow it to unfold so that when we come into the now, when we're at that point of the vortex or the zero, or there's all these terms in the spiritual world of like, what does that look like for the power of now to show up and just being like, I'm here now in this present moment. And in that silence that Shantel was speaking about moments ago, in that silence, you can finally listen. You can finally hear and truly hear God's voice, that higher divine intelligence. You can get those downloads, like things are going to start coming through because you're in your flow. So know that it is a process. It's not something that is typically done overnight. And if it does for you, like if you haven't done your a lot of deep shadow work and you're able to find your flow, freaking fantastic. That's great. But I would say more times than not, it's that we're doing the work, we're doing the shadow work, we're allowing those deep fears and insecurities come to the surface so that we can look at them and shift through them and give ourselves permission to let them go so that we can choose a different way, so that we can say, I'm safe in the now, I'm safe in the presence, I'm safe with whatever emotion comes up. It's not about suppression. And I think there's so many people in the spiritual world that are suppressing their emotions. They're doing the whole positivity only thing. And guess what? Those end up blowing up back in your face because you're suppressing it. You're not actually being your authentic truth. You're not actually finding your flow. You're not actually getting into the vortex. You're not finding that alignment because you've shoved everything down, right?
And
And
at some point, you have to look at it. because it doesn't go away. Our body remembers, our souls, our cells, everything within us remembers. And so we can suppress it as much as we want. But at some point, it's going to surface. And we have to look at those emotions and what it means. And then, like when you're talking about when you are in flow, you receive that knowing. And that knowing for me is what keeps us on our path. Like for me, when I have the knowing, I tune into that. You feel this like this wave of energy that comes through, and it's like, you got to jump on that wave. Like there's the timeline, there's the energy, there's that influx of like moving forward, whatever that is for you, because it's different for everyone. But when we can tune into that energy, that's really when we can shift and go forward, and the past really becomes the past. And now we're in moving in the momentum of our now that's taken us forward into who we're becoming and what we're excited to be, to grow and to evolve and to develop. And that's where that joy comes in. Because if we're in joy and happiness, we are in our present moment. And we get to manifest and develop and create things that you can't always do when you're in your shadow work, right? Because
Yes.
it's a whole different process. So stepping out of the shadow into the light version of yourself, or this awakened version of yourself, it is a process. But when you get to that point, and there's many layers to it, we're never fully awake, but these layers of awakening happens. And when we step more into them and we are deeper within ourselves, you get to develop into a whole different person. And literally you can claim that.
And I feel like there's also this piece of each and every one of us has the shadow side and we have a light side. And we can't curse the darkness within us. Like it doesn't work that way. We've got to figure out a way to love on it. And knowing that the dark side, that shadow aspect of ourself, is part of who we are. And we, when we turn our back on that version of us, to say, I'm not looking at it, I'm not looking at it, I'm not looking at it, you're not doing yourself any favors. There's a balance of, I can be step into the light and be in the alignment, and there are going to be things that are going to bring the shadow back in to say, we've got still more work here. And and to be like, and when it shows up, to say, I love that part of myself. I love that the shadow needs attention right now. I love that there's aspects of me that I need to be soft with, that I need to give myself grace around, that there's an opportunity to say, there's still hurt here, and I can meet myself in the hurt and not banish it, that I'm not cursing it, that I say, I love you too, and saying, what do you need now? Whether that's your inner child, whether that's your fear, and going, you're safe, you're safe, you're safe. I'm going to hold space for you. And it's like your light self giving a hug to your shadow aspects, right? And going, that is okay and normal. Like, can we just do that? Can we just say it's normal and it's okay? Because there's no running from it. It's going to show up again. The more we deny and suppress, it's going to come back.
Yeah. Because the shadow self is the version of us we needed during that survival mode.
Yeah.
It really helps us, because that's where we can find some of our strength, is to step up and speak what we need to speak, but then it is the like you're talking about, having the light side of ourselves to integrate that shadow self. It's not we all have to recognize who we are. We have to know who we are enough to say, you know what, sometimes I can just table that. It doesn't mean you suppress it. You just table it. You table those emotions or that attitude or those thoughts, so that you can show up in that lighter version of yourself. And that is like a great balance to be able to do it. It's not, I'm going to suppress you. As you're just here. You're my equal, because they really are. And so when you need to be stronger, when you need to be more the rebel or the whatever, you get to tune into that side of yourself and say, okay, what gifts do you have for me right now?
Yeah.
And let that side of you come out, because there are times where we need to be the fighter. There are times where we need to be the warrior, that we need to all of that. And when we're all just light and love and everything, that's not always going to pull us through the dark times of life, or when we're being taken advantage of, or we have to create our boundaries, or whatever it is. It's that shadow self that is going to do that. That's when you get to be like your thug self and say, I'm creating these boundaries. You don't get to take advantage of me anymore. I'm going to speak my truth. And instead of just going and being quiet and being censored by people or situations, that's where that can really open up. So embracing both of them is going to put you on that, your soul's purpose and your soul's path, because you need both to walk. It is the left and the right, and the balance of the yin and the yang and the feminine and the masculine and all the things is, yeah, the universal law of duality. We need them both.
Well, and it makes me curious about men's experiences versus female experiences because
Mhm.
we like women, we have our this hormone charges within us
Yeah.
really bring out the shadow self or the light self. And, like I can see my cycle and when it shows, oh, I'm in good times right now. Everything is light. I'm totally in alignment. The synchronicities show up. I'm totally able to be present in the moment. And then, after ovulation, I'm like, oh, and there's the shadow. Right?
Hello. Once
This
a
is
month, here we go.
right. And it is, it's where, the deepest fears, the insecurities, my tongue gets loose. Like, you want to see me get all feisty? Guess what? Like, this is the time. Right. And knowing
But
that, like,
that is that powerful feminine energy that has to come through too.
yeah,
It is like, because we can do so much. And I think, especially, as women, we wear so many different hats. We have so many different roles that we play. And not that men don't, but I think because we're way more emotional,
yeah,
it shows up different. And then our emotions, we don't always have time to just sit with our emotions every day. Sometimes we gotta it's once a week or every few days or whatever it is, you try in the moment, but life does get busy. And then, yeah, that once a month shows up, and then all of a sudden there it is. Remember last week? Remember 2 weeks ago?
yeah, anything that's been suppressed, it's like, let's just talk about
Yeah.
this.
We just have a moment.
And knowing that, that's
Yeah.
part of our nature, and it's part of our cycles. And where we giving ourselves permission to be in that light and darkness, and when are we saying like, I just want to suppress this. Can we move through this quickly, please?
Yeah.
And knowing that it's okay. It's okay to be in that, letting that primal part of ourselves, that shadow part of ourselves, that energy of I I want to I want to burn it all down and like figure this out. Like all of those strong, heavy emotions are just part of life. It's part of life. It's
Yeah.
ups and downs.
Primal, that's a good way. It's because we are primal beings.
Mhm.
In the end of it, when you strip it all down, we are. And so it's just learning to grow from that. And then where conversations don't have to be 3 hours anymore. They can just be a 10-15 minute conversation, and you don't have to blow up, and that's when that you found your balance. When you are on the trajectory of your purpose and path, is because suddenly those things don't drag out for hours and hours. Even yesterday, my husband was feeling some things, and talking about men, because he is a very like strong man, very masculine, but when he's feeling some things, he's soft. And so it was like, okay, and then it's like, give yourself this time to feel whatever you feel, and then when this 15 minutes is over or whatever, then let's get our day going. And that's what he did. So he just laid there and felt what he felt, and he actually had some childhood stuff come in, and he was like, I saw myself as a little boy. I've never seen that. And I was like, oh, because you're ready. Because you gave yourself he gave himself permission to just lay there, to do the work, to just release and let whatever needed to come forward, come forward. And when he did that, that version of himself that needed to be healed showed up. And then he was able to say, I'm sorry, or whatever it was he was doing. And when he got up, it was like the light in his eyes shifted, his face shifted, everything shifted. And it was like all you needed was like 15 minutes of just, I'm going to feel this and push through it. And once he did, he was okay.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to actually witness. Because we don't always get to see that in men.
Right.
And when you do, it's like there's this, a lot of people think, oh, you're weak or you're that. And no, there is so much power in watching somebody actually go through the emotions of what they're going through and to be able to come out on the other end and they recognize that they did it. And
Yes.
it's just like, yay.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have the opportunity to celebrate the people in our life for allowing themselves to be vulnerable, allowing them to feel the emotions and know that they are safe in your world with them doing that type of work. And I think once again, this is why I love our Soul Rising program so much, because we get to witness our students do this
Yeah.
in this sacred space and we're doing it together. Right. So we're all allowed to have our emotions, to cry, to be vulnerable, to get angry, to whatever emotion it is. There's a space in the program in which you're allowed to, well, you're welcome and invited into that emotion to go, like what's here, let's process it, let's see what this is, while we are creating these really amazing connections with our spirit team. Right.
Mm.
So you want to go figure out what's going on in your sacral chakra and you go do a guided meditation to meet sacral chakra. Well, guess what? They're gonna show up for you and they're going to tell you how you've been suppressing your sexuality or how you haven't been your full creative self. They're going to show you your inner childhood wounds that still need to be processed and healed. Right. So there's so much abundance of the buffet table of like, how do we do this work? I don't think there's any one right way. And I love Soul Rising so much because we do witness it. We do witness every single student doing it in their way, not my way, not Shantel's way, not Isabel's way, but their way. And being able to take the pieces of the program that resonate with them and then use that as a skill and a tool to shift through that process and then watch them come out on the other side feeling more grounded, feeling more stable, feeling more secure, feeling more self-love, feeling more confident in themselves and in the world. It's amazing to witness. I feel so honored and privileged to be able to watch our students go through this process. And really, once they're moving through it, like their whole life shifts. They're able to put the boundaries into place. They're able to get motivated and do the work. They know that it's worth it. Like, I think there's people who are like, yeah, I could do it that way, but that seems really heavy and hard. And so I'm just going to I'm not going to go there. And they take years. I've seen people take years of, I'm not doing the work because it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And the invitation with Soul Rising is like, it is hard. I'm going to honor that. It's freaking hard work, but you have a team of mentors to support you. You have your classmates who are all going through the same thing and they're there to support you. And you have the tools and resources to move through it, which I wouldn't want to go through it on my own.
Yeah.
Right. It's
There's
so,
power in having a mentor. There's power in being in a group of people that are working with that energy, because then it's like you're riding on that same energy. It's like, yes, you can go do it yourself, and but it will take a lot longer most of the time. But when you have a mentor who's already gone through it, that has the teachings to say, hey, what about this? Look at it that way, different perspectives. And on top of it, you have your cohort to go and communicate with. It makes it so much faster. And that's why we can shift so much in 4 months, because 4 months is like nothing in the timeline of our life. And yet we can change so much in our life just in that period of time because of the setup, the way soul rising is.
right. Exactly. And, Isabel wrote an email the other day and I was like in tears over it. And it's just because it was a powerful call to recognizing the doubt that we show up with. And I'm actually going to read it because I thought it was so powerful. This one paragraph, and going, where are we in our lives where doubt and that fear is showing up? And how are we called to live our bigger, more fuller, more authentic lives And then watch spirit show up for you. Then watch the synchronicity show up for you. Watch how the soul's path shows up in such a full way that there is no more doubt that I'm on it. Like, I have no doubt that I'm on the path that I'm meant to be. I have no doubt that the people in my life at this current time are meant to be there. I have no doubt that my children were born through me for reason and purpose. I have no doubt, right? And then doubt still shows up, right? When it comes to what if you haven't worked on, right? And so it's a cycle. And so I'm totally a Pisces. If you haven't recognized that in all of these years of podcasts and YouTube videos and everything else, where I very much chase my tail when I make decisions and move forward in life. Like, I feel like I am two fish circling, 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 but they are moving forward. But the decision-making process for me is very circular. I talk myself in circles and going, where's the fear? Where's the doubt? And I have to reconcile all of the emotions before I can move forward. And so I have to tell people in my life, like, if I've made a decision, ask me in 3 days again, right?
Make sure I'm still there.
Because I'm always consistently processing forward. So I might give a no, I'm not comfortable with that. And then I'm like, then I have to settle into it and feel the emotions of it. And then the next few days, I'm like, well, maybe. Okay, now give me a little bit more time. Let's see if I can get a visual with that, or a vision from a spirit guide. I'm like, all right, fine. Right.
And so I'm the one that I can have this big old purge of emotions and feelings and blah, 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 blah. And then, like, when I was younger, my mom would call me and she'd be like, honey, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm great. Why? What's going on? She's like, what? Like 3 days ago, you were, my mom's over here worried about me. And I'm like, oh no, mom, that was like, so 3 days ago. Because once I let it out, a lot of times it's done. It's not like I go back and revisit it, but it's funny because chasing the tail. I don't have Pisces, but
I'm like, what sign are you again?
Sagittarius.
Okay, yeah.
I'm the archer. I'm very much that goal oriented, like future focus. And that has, oh my gosh, that has created so much in my life of like rebound and just back and forth, because you get so focused in the future. And that's what I'm learning, is to be in my now. It's huge. That's a huge thing for Sagittarius to learn, because we're ruled by Jupiter and we're very expansive in our thoughts and what our goals are. So and we're mutable. So I am ready to go all the time. You can pick me up and transplant me and all the things. And so it's really hard sometimes to feel grounded and to feel in my moment and to be okay and satisfied right here.
Yeah.
That's a hard one sometimes. And I'm really training myself to do it.
Yeah. So, like, I love that, because my Pisces definitely, it's very intuitive, it's very spiritual, it's all of those typical things. But I also have Capricorn as my moon, which is also super goal oriented. And so I can see how, it's definitely a forward moving spiral.
And Capricorns are very work focused, workaholics.
Yeah.
Much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Which, as me being the visionary for moon rising, makes sense to me, right? I can bring in the balance of the spirituality, the intuitiveness, the having visions, which I do. I have visions. I'm very much that clairvoyant and see things that are coming in the future, or being told what's the next step I'm supposed to be in, which tells me I'm in alignment, right? Like, that Pisces aspect is very strong. And yet there's the Capricorn that is ready to get motivated and push things forward, right? Mm-hmm. And so when the out of alignment shows up, when the doubt starts holding you back, I got to read this, because for me, it really touched my heart. And I had to tell Isabel, like, that was a fantastic email. So if you didn't read your email,
go back, go find it.
I think it was the last, like, I think it went out on August 31st, I think, or maybe August 30th. I was like, this is like the best email I've read in so long. And so it says, if you've been feeling the call to expand your reality, follow your dreams, and truly heal, but your doubts stop you short, let me tell you something. Fear, doubt, and anxiety are all normal symptoms of expanding your reality, taking a leap and trusting in something greater than your mind, trusting in your soul, your intuition, and your guides. It's a sign to keep going. These doubts are normal. They're just telling you you have a choice. You have a choice to remain the same or to start anew, to stagnate or to expand, to keep living out the same patterns or to grow in a new direction. You have a choice between the predictable, safe space of the past and the expansive, healing, powerful potential of possibility in the future. And I think I sent that little clip to so many people that day because I was like, that's it. That's it. We have choice in the matter of, do we want to continue the self-sabotaging patterns and behaviors? Do we want to stay in those limiting beliefs? Do we want to keep telling ourselves that we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough? Why would I try that? Someone else has already got it figured out. Do we want to continue in those cycles, those repeated patterns? Or do we want to make a new choice? And that choice can be freaking scary because it's the unknown. There's a level of the unknown. I don't know what that's going to be like. And I see so many people, and especially Reiki practitioners, that are on the line. They walk the line. Like, doing the self work is frightening because they're not really sure what it's going to be like. And it's easier to stay in the past, just do their Reiki self-care, but not actually dig deeper into why the patterns are showing up, why the limiting beliefs are showing up. And to know that if you just take a step of saying, I'm going to trust the universe, I'm going to trust spirit, I'm going to trust source, I'm going to trust that I'm going to be guided, I'm going to trust that I'm going to be held, I'm going to trust that if a program, an offering, a mentor shows up for me, I can say yes to that and say it with my fullness of who I am. And when I do so, when I say yes once, when I say yes twice, when I say yes 3 times to that expansive possibilities, guess what happens? What happens is that that voice, that synchronicities, those aha moments keep showing up because the universe basically are saying, I recognize you, I see you, thank you. And when you keep saying, yes, thank you, I see you, they're going to keep showing up. The same thing happens with our guides, our spirit animals, our power animals, our spirit guides, our angels. When we start saying, I see you, I recognize you, thank you for showing up for me, they're going to finally be like, oh, thank goodness they're paying attention. Let me show up more. And they're going to lay before you the path, your soul's path. And that's going to lead to the possibilities of healing. That's going to lead you to the possibilities of seeing your shadow self and being able to not only work through it, but to integrate the lessons of it so we can recognize what our triggers are and take a freaking breath before we have a spontaneous reaction for when the triggers show up. We're able to move in such a powerful way, knowing that spirit is in communication with us through synchronicities, through messages of some kind, and that they're going to keep unfolding the more we say, yes, please, thank you, keep showing up for me. So what's holding you back in doubt? What's holding you back from living your full authentic self? I have been on that edge so many times in my life of going, I can't live this way anymore. I might as like, it feels like death is on the doorstep if I keep making this choice over and over again of suppressing who I am and saying, all right, I'm going to do it. And when I say, okay, I'm ready to take that leap, it's like jumping off of a freaking cliff and I'm free falling. And then saying, thank you, angels, for catching me and guiding me and letting me fly. And remembering that I have freaking wings all on my own. That's what it feels like. It's that I'm going to free fall. I forgot that I had wings. The angels are going to lift me up and remind me, I have my own power. I have my own strength. I have my own wisdom. I have my own light to share with the world. This is who you are.
It is. It's absolutely who you are. And the universe is going to show us exactly what it is that the energy that we're putting out. So if we're in fear, it's going to give us experiences to be fearful of. If we're in, expansion, then it's going to give us those experiences. So it really is the choice that we make with the energy in which we produce, that we put out there so that we can be met where we are. so that we can pull back those layers of ourselves and let that then provide the healing. Because when we're pulling back those layers and looking at us from a very raw perspective, then you really can truly fall in love with who you are, and know that you did everything you could at the moment that you did, from the perspective and the consciousness that you were at. And now that you've grown, you can give yourself that grace, you can give yourself that forgiveness, and move forward knowing that it's all in its own timing.
Yeah.
And it's all in its own right path. And so it's like trusting, like you're saying, taking that leap of faith, knowing that you have wings, knowing that you're going to be caught. But is it scary to do it? Absolutely. It is scary. But then, like, once you know your guides are with you, it's like, I'll give you an example. So at work, I have 2 rooms and I have a rug under each bed. And like the new room I just set up, I purchased an outdoor rug. And I love the design of it and the colors and everything. Well, when I'm doing Reiki on this rug, and not thinking anything about it being an outdoor rug, but I've been doing Reiki on it. And then as I'm in session, I'm feeling these different sensations that I've never felt, almost kind of like shocks and things. And I'm like, what the heck? And so last week I was working on a client and I felt one come up, like up my side, and it like was like, and like a jolt. And I was like, okay. And I stopped and I asked my guides, what is going on? And I was told the rug has a chemical layer on it because it's an outdoor rug. It's protecting the rug from the weathering. And so it's not allowing me to ground and transmute correctly the way I need to as I'm working on this client, and to get rid of the rug. And so it's like immediately I stepped off the rug, and I had to shift the way I was doing Reiki and everything because I couldn't stand on that rug anymore. So then when that was all said and done, I switched the rug out with the other rug and brought it in. It shifted the entire energy of my room. But then in the other room, I had it in there. And later on, I was doing a foot detox and I stood on it, and the guy, my guy came, I know it needs to go. Like it needs to go, like take it outside. Okay. And there is no doubt in my mind the message I'm receiving, the communication I'm receiving. Like I know that is coming through. And then when you say that, people are like, I never even thought of that. I'm like, I didn't think of that. I never thought if I got an outdoor rug, it's going to have a different layer on it than an indoor rug. I would have never even considered that. It's a freaking rug, I'm like, it's all good. And it's like, no, because what it was doing, it was actually blocking the element for me to be able to ground what I needed to ground. And it
Yeah.
was very interesting. And as soon as I received the message, it was just like, absolutely, that is what is going on.
I
And it
love
was,
that. I love those moments where, and I think this is part of learning how to shamanic journey, right? When we learn how to shamanic journey, there comes a point where it feels like you're just making shit up, right? Your imagination is like just making it up. And then there's this point that shifts. Like we need that phase. We need that opening to our imagination to allow things to show up, because that's the way our brain gets trained and rewires. But there's a point in the shamanic journey training where you're like, where the F did that come from? Like, that was not me. I have no idea where that came from. And so when we can start recognizing that, those are such powerful moments, whether that is for yourself and your own work, the messaging that's coming through, the visuals that's coming through. Like, I have no idea where that came from, but it absolutely makes sense. And now I know which direction I need to go. Or if it's, I'm doing a session for someone and you start getting these powerful messages or visions or whatever it is for you. And you know that this has been brought forward for the benefit of your client, and you stop doubting it. You know that, like, yeah, it wasn't me.
mm-hmm.
Right. And then you can,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you have this like collaboration effect with your client of going, how this is the message I'm getting. Does that resonate with you? And their mind is blown. They know, right?
Because the people that I work with, and they don't necessarily do have the gifts that I have, and so they're like, "What? Why are you switching your rugs?" And then I'm explaining to them, they're like, "What? Oh my!" And as they're all analyzing the fact that this rug probably does have all that, they're like, "That's amazing. How did you even know that?" I'm like, "I didn't. It was told to me." Like, that's why you want to communicate with your guides. That's why you want that relationship, because you literally can just say, "Hey, help me out here. What's happening? This doesn't feel right. Why am I feeling? It was like the energy was being, what is that? Ricocheted back. Like it
Yes.
was going down and coming back up. And I was like, okay. And I've never experienced that. And then it was just like, what is happening? And literally, I was like, told my client, give me just a second. I got to figure something out. And then it came through so fast and it was like, oh, that's it. And then, yeah, it
And
was,
I think that's the beautiful point of like giving ourselves permission to allow divine to show up in whatever way it is, and then saying, I trust this, I know this, I'm ready for this, and I'm going to take action. There's the action piece with it. Like we can get the downloads, we can get the messages, we can get the visions, but unless we say take the divine action steps next, that's when you know you're on your soul's path, because you can get those messages and then deny them. And then what
yes.
we're telling the universe is like, no, I don't trust you. No, I don't trust you. No, I don't trust you. And so they start giving up. They stop sending the synchronicities. They stop sending the messages. They stop sending the visions, because we're sitting back going, no, I don't trust that. No, I don't trust that. That can't be right. Right. And
Yeah.
when we start going, all right, I hear it, I see it, I believe it, I know it, and I'm going to take the action step to put it in play. And when we start putting it in play, then like watch your world on freaking ravel, because the next step was always going to be placed right before you.
Mm,
Everything is just going to show up so easy when we start saying yes to the divine messages and visions that are coming through, because they want to allow us to be in that zone. They want us to have the step, next step, next step, next step. And sometimes those next steps aren't necessarily easy, right? Sometimes this next step is, here's the other part of your shadow self that you still need to work on, right? But they know that if you work through it and that they're going to support you in it, that you're not alone in it, that you can handle the silence. That's where the magic and miracles show up, because
yeah.
you're coming into the space of willingness of being expansive, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, for example, everyone who's listened to Chantel's and my uh, podcast episode from, it was probably February, where we had just gotten back from Costa Rica, and it was a really freaking intense trip. It was a really freaking intense trip, but I had a guide about 2-3 weeks ago show me a vision about how I'm supposed to meet someone at some priestess retreat. And that's all, like, that was kind of the basis of it. Like, okay, there's going to be some retreat I'm going to go on, something that has to do with like priestess orientation or something. There's going to be something that's coming up. Well, then 2-3 weeks later, the retreat shows up. It's freaking in Costa Rica, which then once again brings up all of my anxieties, because I do not want another repeat of that experience. And going and knowing that that experience also had so many lessons in it that it was meant to happen, right? And so to have this next retreat show up and going, there's the next lesson, and I've got to go back to Costa Rica in the same freaking year to meet these people, to have these connections, to learn whatever I need to learn to continue to do the shadow work, could continue to be in my most expansive, aligned state. And so when it shows up, I get the feeling in my gut and going, fuck. Like I'm just so like, oh.
Yeah. And that is a lot of times what that feels like. You're like, no. But at the same time, when you step into that and you step into it in your power, and you know that that is what you're going to go and experience, not that you'll have the same experience that you did before, because this is a whole different set of lessons that you're getting, but you know what you're stepping into, because this is work. This is work that you're going to go and do. And I feel like when we embrace that, it's amazing. That's where the magic is. We have to embrace ourselves and whatever lessons it is, and be open to the traveling and being open to the experiences and new people and new ideas and conversations. Because when we're stuck with the same conversation, the same people, the same everything, there's no growth, there's no expansion in that. And we have to be able to say, I trust in this this movement. I trust in my guides. I trust in this vision. I trust whatever that's unfolding for me so that I can go and experience what I need to experience. Because in the end of it, we're here to have this earthly experience, but we're a soul being to experience it. So we're
Yeah.
not here to be stagnant, and we're not here to be stuck in our trauma and our shadow self. We're here to alchemize that and to transmute it and to shift it and to become new beings and new energy and new versions of ourselves. But that comes from acceptance and being ready to do it and take action. Because you can talk all day long, but if there's no action to it, nothing it will ever shift. It'll be the same thing always and forever.
Right. Yeah. And so you just keep saying yes to life. You
Yeah.
keep saying yes to life. And for a lot of us who are empaths and intuitives, that can feel intense. It can feel it can feel overwhelming. And to give yourself grace to say, I can say yes and do radical self-care. I can say yes and give myself grace. I can say yes and also say, I need this to all slow down, please.
Mm-hmm.
Are all acceptable. I've had clients who really love the fast whirlwind of healing, and that works for some. And other times it's like, I need this to be more gentle. I need this to be slower. I will get through all of the freaking layers, but I need it to slow down and allow that permission to come through of going, I'll keep taking the steps forward. I'll keep doing the work, but I need you to be more gentle. Like I'm telling spirit, I need you to be more gentle and let's bring this in slower. I'll get there. I promise I'll get there. I'll keep doing the things. I'll keep listening. I'll keep meditating. I'll keep doing my work. I'll keep journaling. I'll do the things, but let's let it be slow. Let's let it be gentle. Let's let it unfold in a way that I can process and my body can integrate, because oftentimes it's our body that holds the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we need it to be slow enough so our body can realign its energy, its DNA, its molecular structure for toxicity into a place where we can say yes to joy and happiness and satisfaction, which our body, if you've been through heavy trauma, isn't used to it. The joy, the excitement, the good times can all be triggering, right? And it's because our body holds the score of, well, don't get too attached to that because it's all going to freaking burn down to the ground any minute now, right? And we need to be able to release that and let it go and trust that we're safe and trust that we're safe and trust that we're safe again. And it's okay to give ourselves permission. It's okay to give ourselves grace. It's okay that it can go slow.
Mm-hmm. And that is like the best way of putting it out there, is giving ourselves the permission to go slow or as fast as we need, because it's all individual work anyway.
Yes.
So it's like, just do you in the best way that you can, and whatever is meant for you is going to show up. But when we get so wrapped up in, even for myself lately, some of the things that I've been receiving is when I get trapped in my own fear or whatever it is, or I don't want to be seen, or I'm like, okay, how did I go from here to here, kind of thing. It's recognizing I need to shift out of the perspective of me, the character, the person of Shantel, right? And seeing myself from that higher perspective. There's a reason I'm doing this. There's a reason I'm being called to this. I'm not the one that's out there actually I'm doing the work because I'm doing the work. The avatar of me, my person is doing it. But there's a bigger purpose of it. And I have to tune into that and remember that part. And so when I do that, it takes away a lot of my fear, or it takes away whatever it is that I'm being hesitant with, my obstacles. And I feel that in my throat, even speaking it. It's like, okay, you're speaking a truth of knowing, because it is recognizing that there is a purpose that's moving me. There's a purpose that's moving us, that is bringing and integrating all of these things, right? Like you being called to go back to Costa Rica. Like, who would have thought when you were there that you would be going back? Like, you were like, I am never going back to the jungle, and then here you are being called back to the jungle. And that's because there's this energy there that is so amazing. And for people who haven't gone and experienced it, it's not like what we have here in America, like, or at least in my areas, you don't get to go and have monkeys and have these different animals that are hollering and doing things and all of that are literally right outside your window. I'm over here like watching the birds flutter around. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool because there's just so many of them right now just out there. And then to imagine seeing a different kind of animal swinging through the trees and the energy that that brings.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen, to integrate, to honor, to witness where we're at, and honoring and witnessing where you're at in your life.